definitely time for attachment theory. Hi everyone, Samita here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to delve back into attachment theory. Anxiously attached people, hi, how are you? It is time for us to have a little chat. As a formerly anxiously attached person, I have a lot of insight into anxious attachment, and I have done a lot of shadow work and inner work and undergone a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy processes in order to get to the other side of anxious attachment, even though sometimes um, it's hard to completely unwire and be rid of patterns that have been prevalent from your childhood. um, I'm very aware of any AP, anxious preoccupied, that's the attachment style's full name, full term, anxious preoccupied, because you're always preoccupied with the subject of what brings anxiety. Oftentimes this is an attachment figure. Anyway, we delved way too much into this way too soon. But yeah, we're going to talk. What was I saying? Yeah, it's difficult to completely um be rid of. I mean, yeah, you can completely, change your attachment style to being secure. I have a book here. Sorry, that's why I keep looking down. I mean, you can completely change your attachment to secure 100%. But yeah, I would say I'm still secure leaning AP, or even secure leaning FA, because I feel like while I was healing my anxious, preoccupied tendencies, I also developed a little bit of fearful avoidance, which is a mixture of anxious and avoidant, which is something that does happen. Anyway, I'm digressing way too much. But yeah, I am officially securely attached. Thanks to the personal development school, I've mentioned that under the attachment playlist of my channel a lot. Any attachment video that I make, attachment style related video that I make, I always reference to the personal development school. Um, and Thais Gibson's work, because life changing, pivotal. I feel like it could change the course of humanity and how we approach like love and relationships and connections and marriages and everything. It's not rocket science, it's just human psychology. So, having said that, here are 5 characteristics of anxious attachment style. Number one, anxiously attached people have an avoidant relationship to themselves. Often, the anxiously attached core wound is abandonment, because there's a significant abandonment that imprinted the subconscious mind as children. So usually people who develop anxious attachment style usually have dealt with some form of abandonment from their primary caregivers. It could be in the form of death, in the form of any significant separation. A lot of parents who get divorced, who need, and the child custody cases, things like that. The feeling of abandonment basically is the absence of the parental figure or the attachment figure, the guardian, when you're still developing your um, attachment needs, and you're still, dependent on your caregivers for basic human needs like comfort, care, connection, love, surety, safety, right? So yeah, the core wound of abandonment basically makes anxiously attached people seek out for safe spaces in other people, in connections. They try, basically subconsciously, they're trying to fill that void that, was kind of prevalent through their childhood. So anxiously attached people, in pursuit of getting that attachment need met from, primary caregivers or partners or whatever, in that, anxiety driven, it's a drive to sort of connect to people, to have them validate us, validate our needs, meet our needs, whether that's the need for validation, reassurance, whatever it could be. In that pursuit, what happens is anxiously attached people fail to check in with themselves and have a relationship to themselves and give themselves the, satisfaction of their needs being fulfilled, of whether that's emotional connection. Very strong need for anxiously attached people. Emotional connection often is the driving force and factor behind their choices, their life choices. So, what do I mean by this? What do I mean by an avoidant relationship to the self? Well, anxious, preoccupied people are not very good at self soothing and not very good at meeting their own needs and regulating their own emotions, because they're always dependent on a caregiver or a partner or somebody. Because growing up, they never had a safe and healthy module for regulation, and they always grew up being unable to trust themselves with themselves. So they have an avoidant relationship to themselves, which is hard, because there was such a significant abandonment. They feel like they need to fill that void with somebody else, or like they cannot help that process themselves. Growing up, usually a secure model of behavior is modeled to us by parents, and when that is insufficient or partially absent or completely absent, we often look for that void to be fulfilled, right? So yeah, what do I mean by anxiously attached people have an avoidant relationship to themselves is this: they do not know how to be in tune with themselves, but they are very good at tuning into other people. APs don't know how to regulate their own emotions. They often look to others to define themselves in a lot of ways because they have a wavering sense of self. So their self worth can be dependent on external factors, which is very important to learn because often they get conned or trapped into someone else telling them who they are, and this can really take a toll on their mental health, which has happened to me. People who have barely known me growing up have taken the liberty to judge me based off of one-off incidents or based off of incidents that happened when I was a child. And they didn't know me throughout my growing years and my adult years, and they decided to make opinions, and I succumbed to it, and I believed them, and I was in agreement with them. This happens so many times where I've second guessed myself and who I am based on other people's opinions, which is such a dangerous thing to do because then you're just the puppet and people are the puppeteers of your sense of self and your sense of self-worth and your emotions. So it's important for anxiously attached people to learn themselves, sit with themselves, get to know who they are, and validate themselves and develop a connection to themselves. Therefore, it is very, very important for APs to sit with themselves and do things like journaling. You will find that if you're anxiously attached, it's difficult for you to sit and journal because to spend your time connecting to yourself, you would rather spend that time connecting to others. So you're a little bit reluctant to spending time alone. And by alone, I don't mean reading a book or taking some other form of input or watching a show or watching something or being on your phone. By alone, I truly mean silence, connecting to yourself, checking in with your emotions, the source of those emotions. So yeah, that's a good practice to become aware of the avoidance towards the self and to develop a healthier connection to the self, which will help us feel more fulfilled in ourselves so we are not feverishly seeking out other connections to meet our many needs. And I speak about needs and all of that in other videos on this channel as well under the playlist of attachment styles slash psychology. Moving on to the next point, number two. This is insane. This is so insane. Before I leaned secure, before I developed a secure attachment, I would only take care of myself to the fullest of my ability if I had a partner who loved me or if I had love in some form, which is insane because it's not just me. And a lot of APs that I've met, they've talked about how when they had love in their lives, when they had like a partner or someone to like make them feel like they're worthy, make them feel like they deserve love, that's when they feel like pouring into themselves. And if that's not there, they neglect themselves and they don't pour into themselves because it's like it hits some sort of I'm not worthy, why even bother taking care of myself. When someone's in the picture, they're like, oh okay, I'll go above and beyond for this person. I need to look my best, feel my best. And then they feel motivated to pour into themselves. You see a lot of anxiously attached people talking about how once they started dating their partner, they took their health more seriously, they hit the gym. But when they were broken up with or when they were not in a relationship, this was not much of their priority. Not saying that they're not ambitious or they don't take care of themselves, a feeling of someone else validating their worth. So that's something to look into. So know that you deserve to be taken care of, whether someone else is pouring into you or not. You need to pour into you because that's the way to be self fulfilled and attract, you know, partners who are not gonna like complete you, but they're gonna add to you. And I'm not gonna digress deeper into that, but like, yeah, that is very important for us to, cultivate and develop that. Notice how sometimes without that external validation, you don't feel, if you're AP, worthy to invest in yourself. So please catch yourself where you're not investing in yourself, not being with yourself, sitting with yourself, building a relationship to yourself, and attempt to change that and start investing in yourself. Which brings me to my point three. Anxiously attached people externalize their needs a lot. They always depend on, they're like little, like, I'm not saying this in a wrong way, but they are, they have grown up with patterns, maladaptive patterns when it comes to, being an adult and being self sufficient in a lot of ways for their emotional well being or for whatever it is. They externalize their needs, they need others to meet their needs. So learning your needs and meeting your needs is something that anxiously attached people should practice again. I will link the video that's very relevant to this video regarding the subconscious mind and human needs and everything. I'll link it in the description below to make this video more clearer. What I mean when I say needs will become more clear to you. That is my third point. There are so many ways by which you can connect to yourself, and that should be something that AP should do. Point number four, just like avoidant attachers deactivate, the attachment system deactivates. Anxiously attached people activate and sometimes they hyperactivate. Have you noticed when the anxiety takes over to connect and you really want to connect and you're not able to connect, and sometimes your subconscious mind sparks a fight with either a partner just to have that need for emotional connection met? Hyperactivation is a sense of heightened anxiety where you're in fight or flight mode because you have a complete feverishness for your needs to be met, because your needs are not being met by yourself. Your needs bucket is empty, whether that's especially emotional connection and reassurance, validation, whatever that is. So hyperactivation is a state where your attachment system's activated in a way where it has to get its needs met, and you behave and speak in ways that are sometimes downright non-excusable, because that hyperactivation is the system's panic response to not needs not being met, or feeling an impending sense of doom, of abandonment or rejection or failure, whatever it is. And that's a state when you say things that you should not be saying, you don't mean. People during hyperactivation can scream, yell. APs have emotional volatility when you hyperactivate. So this is something that can really be helped with somatic processing and learning how to regulate your emotions, self-regulate, because that sense of anxiety, it's like almost like an anxiety attack, and something gets hijacked, your amygdala is hijacked, and you're just like, yeah, you don't love me. It's very common in anxiously attached people to be a little cuckoo when they're not getting their attachment needs met. And since you're so dependent on the external world, there are going to be days where the external world, people in your life, are not going to show up for you, and that time you need to be equipped with knowledge on how to show up for yourself. So that is something I think that APs really need to learn. No, you're not crazy, you're not toxic, you just need to learn how to regulate. And that is something that is important, because APs can be so misunderstood when they hyperactivate. They're just looking for connection, they're just looking to be validated, they're just looking to be told that their emotions are not unreasonable or obnoxious or over the top. They just need to be calmed down, because when they're acting up and they're acting out and their behaviors are displaying volatility or unacceptable elements in that, they need to be soothed and they need to be loved and they need to be validated and cared for. That's what they're seeking, but they're seeking it in ways that will push what they need away even more. This is exactly self-sabotage behaviors. So yeah, hyperactivation is something to be aware of, so that you can do better by yourself and be better at communicating what you need from your loved ones and people around you. Now, the fifth and final point, I've mentioned this throughout the video. What causes anxious attachment? Sometimes it's not even abandonment, it's like a form of parenting, the result of parenting being very reward based. That as well, you feel like you need to overachieve. Anxiously attached people can be overachievers because they're trying to prove their worth to themselves, they're trying to prove their worth to the world, because inherently they feel unworthy of love, of everything that they want. So they try so hard to, like, fight for their worth to be validated. So that is something that's a very common theme, that's tied to core wounds of the anxiously attached. I will be alone, I will be abandoned, I'm not good enough, um, you know people don't love me, I'm not seen, I'm unheard. So you will see an anxiously attached person trying to debunk all of these core wounds, but at the same time, they chase situations and people that reinforce these core wounds, because the subconscious is wired to, keep itself in a state of familiarity. So as much as you try to run away, the more you do to feel more validated, that will not feel like it's enough. It's like the result of you trying to pursue something that's going to validate you will give you temporary satisfaction, but then again you'll feel that void of, like, it's not enough, it's not enough. I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to feel better, because there's this void of worthlessness, a void that is filled with worthlessness, and you're trying to get rid of that worthlessness by overachieving. So that is something to sort of simmer down and be like, hey, I deserve love and I'm worthy, even if I'm not a freaking black belt in jujitsu. um, there is a tendency to you know go beyond what one can take in order to prove oneself, and in the process health gets neglected, mental and physical. In the process loved ones get neglected. It happens. I've seen it happen with a lot of happened with me as well. So learn to tie your worth to things that aren't external. Learn to tie your worth with your ability to be present with yourself and to appreciate life. Tie your worth to more permanent things, and usually permanent things are more spiritual and not in the hubble, in the buzz of the external world and external hierarchies. Um, Building your self worth on things that are solid and not wavering and not up and down, like hierarchies or what feed the ego. The ego is fed by very flimsy things in the world that do not last. So, find ways to be present with yourself. You don't need to be or become anybody significant in order to be loved and celebrated. Even though the world seemingly operates like that, please know that your worth is not tied to you being somebody significant. You deserve to be loved and celebrated for just existing, because the universe deemed you worthy of this human experience and all its ups and downs and glory. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the post notifications so we can stay connected, and I will see you next time. Bye. Happy healing. Okay, good. Woo, we did that, girl. Woo, we did that.